It's round 4 of the 1998 Formula One World Championship, the San Marino Grand Prix, and it's only on ITV. Britain's David Coulthard has been the top man so far. Now he has to deliver in the race itself. James Allen and Louise Goodman are in the pits. Let's join Martin Brundle and, first of all, Murray Walker.
Well, the good news is that Martin Brundle has joined me in the commentary box. I was visualising doing my first Grand Prix commentary alone for a long, long time. He's here, smiling, in good form, and so is everybody else. This is a super place to be for a Grand Prix. You've already heard that it's oozing with atmosphere, and it is. The Tifosi have got their name rightly because they're gigantically enthusiastic. They're gigantically enthusiastic, in particular for Ferrari. And they've got a sporting chance, I wouldn't put it any higher than that, but they've got a sporting chance of seeing what they saw on television from Argentina, but this time in the flesh, a Ferrari winning at Imola. But first, they've got to beat the two dominant McLarens. But with two McLarens on the front row of the grid and David Coulthard up there in pole position for the second race in succession, just 1/10 of a second faster than his teammate Mika Häkkinen, and with the two Ferraris on the next row, row 2, Schumacher and Eddie Irvine, who drove an absolute blinder in qualifying yesterday, the Tifosi are really fired up. 200,000 of them here. I think that must be a record attendance. Alexander Wurz, a magnificent new boy, fifth on the grid, and this is his first time in Imola. Jacques Villeneuve, double world champion, is in 6th place on the grid. So the grid is dominated by McLaren, Ferrari, Benetton and Williams. What do you think, Martin?
Well, I was just looking at the helicopter shots from this particular view you can see here, and I saw a lot of white powder down. You can see some more there at Rivazza. It looks like somebody's blown up big time, and there's a lot of cement dust to soak up that oil. Now, I'm assuming this is not an old picture we're seeing here from the host broadcast in Italy. This is the real thing. And apparently in the Porsche race earlier, one of the cars blew up, and you'll see it particularly all the way down to the first corner, which is throwing a nice double six for those that are wondering where they're going to brake, because I remember they're doing 180 miles an hour from the grid down there, and they'll be on the front tyres will be cold, the rear tyres will be hot because they've just lit them up away from the start line. The brakes will be virtually cold, and it's always difficult to know when to brake into that first corner anyway. And now, to add to that, there's a load of cement powder everywhere, so there's a bit of a variable we weren't expecting. But I have to say that the McLarens have a few tenths of a second per lap in their pockets. It's a 62-lap race. If they have a clean race, they should finish 1 and 2. But Michael Schumacher's looking strong in front of his home crowd. Or Ferrari's home crowd, I should say. He looks like he can keep them honest all the way through. And just behind him, led by Eddie Irvine, there could be an almighty scrap. I'm expecting the Benettons to be coming through. I don't think their grid position represents their pace for this race. Their Bridgestones are working well too, as are the McLarens, and I'm really looking forward to Fisichella and Wurz trying to make ground.
And this is the second race where the new Goodyear front wider tyre has been used, and they are 3rd and 4th on the grid with the Ferraris. Jackie Stewart there, whose team is not in very good shape here, unfortunately. Both the drivers have been complaining vociferously about the handling of their cars. As a counter to that, the two yellow Jordans that you can see at the top of your picture, or could see at the top of your picture, are in much better shape here. Notably, Damon Hill, who's starting 7th on the grid and is much, much happier with his car. We know he's got the talent. What he needs is the car, and he's getting closer to it. Longer wheelbase, revised front suspension. Now, as Martin has said, this is a 62-lap race, just over 3 miles per lap. This circuit has got a lot of gradient, uphill, downhill in it. There are some 17 bends, depending on what you define as a bend, and it includes a couple of very tight chicanes. 2 extra chicanes were put in after the tragic death of Ayrton Senna here, but now they are off on the warm-up lap. Talk us round, Martin.
Well, they're heading from the line, and it's very, very important not to stall your engine. There's the cement dust on the track, you can see. And you can't believe how easy it is to stall the engine. You may say, I don't stall the engine on my car when I go shopping or wherever you go in your car. But these engines don't really work until they're pulling 10 or 12,000 RPM. They're not particularly clean. And it's so easy to drop the clutch, stall the engine, which means your race is over already. But all the cars cleanly away, and they're already down to Tozer. Now, it's Coulthard's job to control the pace, to keep the pack bunched up. At the same time, they're dabbing the brakes, then they're pushing the brakes hard. Occasionally, you'll even see blue smoke coming off the front tyres as the front brake temperature suddenly flares up from 400 to 700 degrees, and the brakes clamp up. But they'll build up speed, trying to get as much temperature in those tyres as they can. And the only way to do that is fast through a corner or jump on the throttle pedal. And heading up now towards Variante-Alto, I'm expecting to see some errors here this afternoon because the curbs are vicious, as we've already seen, and it's very easy to come flying off of that curb there and run wide. There's been cars spinning out of there. And then they've got a relatively clean run towards the end of the lap. It's a huge stop from 185 miles an hour into Rivazza. I think we'll pick the leaders up anytime now. Coming down there now into Rivazza. It is an overtaking place, but it often ends up with a tangling of wheels and a lot of acrimony. No bumps, very smooth, very grippy, and it's a clean run to the end. Coulthard's been very fast through this section, all through practice and qualifying. Michael Schumacher's tended to be faster through the mid part of the lap, and Häkkinen really has good speed all the way around. But David Coulthard has had the slight edge, more or less, for the last 2 days. And in the warm-up this morning, he was extremely fast.
No doubt he will be in the race, but it's going to be a critical first corner as ever. Michael Schumacher, who is third on the grid, will be trying at minimum as we ride up to the grid from the nose of Eddie Irvine's Ferrari, starting third. And Michael Schumacher will be trying at least to split the two Benettons by the time he gets to the first corner, Tamburello. You may have noticed as they were going round that the two Ferraris for the first time have got the dreaded and appallingly ugly side pod mounted wings for extra downforce, and we hope they're going to be banned. The president of the FI intends to watch the lights when they'll go on one at a time, and then they'll all go out, and then the race will be go. So 3 on, 4 on, 5 on, and it is away. And it's a good start for David Coulthard, a good start for Mika Häkkinen. Jacques Villeneuve streaking up on the left-hand side. Schumacher darting about behind Mika Häkkinen, and Villeneuve is already up to 4th position. Good start in the Williams from 6th on the grid. So coming towards us, David Coulthard leads, Mika Häkkinen is 2nd. Then it is Schumacher, Villeneuve, Eddie Irvine has been pushed from 4th to 5th.
That's a Stewart rear wing laying on the racetrack. Obviously, contact on the way out. There's a Jordan going slowly too. I think it's Damon Hill. There was some kind of contact into the Villeneuve chicane.
I think it's more likely to be Schumacher because he was further back on the grid with the two Stewarts. Well, we'll soon see because it's McLaren, Ferrari, then Jacques Villeneuve, Eddie Irvine in 5th position. They're climbing up now and coming towards us to the Variante-Alto on lap 1. There is Jacques Villeneuve 5th, 6th is Frentzen, 7th is Fisichella, and out of the race has got poor old Rubens Barrichello. Well, he was very unhappy in qualifying and practice. He'll be even unhappier now.
Well, I think I saw Ralf Schumacher in the Jordan. Here's, oh, yes, see, he didn't realise his wing was missing, look. He's gone over the blind brow before Piratella and gone off backwards. So somebody has nudged the back of his car, broken the rear wing mounting, and it's fallen off without the driver aware. And, hey presto, he's heading off backwards.
And here they come, 1 lap completed. That's a Lacey on the left, and there was Ralf Schumacher behind him. But as you can see, already the two McLarens are starting to inch away from Schumacher. Villeneuve, Eddie Irvine.
Hill is in the pits. It was Damon Hill. He's in the pits slowly. I'm watching out of the window. What are they doing there? They look like they're having to change his nose. He's run into the back of somebody, and they're lifting the car. Yes, now we think he probably hit Alexander Wirtz, and there we go. That's going to cost him 20, 25 seconds and put him Hill leaving the pits now, and that's putting him absolutely at the back of the field, half a lap behind.
Second race in succession that's happened because he drove into Johnny Herbert in Argentina, and now we are on the second lap, coming towards the end of it.
Well, Wirtz has pitted as well. There you see him. He's clearly switched the engine off. Some kind of damage to Wirtz's car, so clearly Hill and Wirtz getting together in the first corner.
And James Allen is in the Benetton garage. James.
Murray, I'm about 4 feet behind Wirtz's car. They've got the starter engaged. The problem is he's stuck in third gear. Just nothing to do whatsoever with the Damon Hill incident. They're trying to get it started. They've changed the steering wheel. The engine is going now. They're putting a new right front tyre on, and I think Alex Wirtz is going to rejoin it.
James, I saw what happened. We're just getting a replay now. You can't see that. We can. Obviously, Wirtz had some kind of gear selection problem off the line, and he had her coming together with Damon in a straight line. So that was the problem there. I think Wirtz had a mechanical problem, and Damon just got closed down. David Coulthard looking supreme. Mika Hakkinen was looking particularly untidy behind him, coming onto the pit straight. But it looks strong for the McLarens at the moment, but they're not walking away as fast as they were earlier in the season.
No, Mika Hakkinen put his left rear wheel onto the grass as he came out of the right-hander at the Traguardo to start another lap. Jacques Villeneuve, they've been working hard on the handling of the Williams with a loose rear end, and here he is coming towards us. Fourth place, Eddie Irvine behind him. That is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and there is Fisichella in 7th position with Jean Lacey, who's come up extremely well in the Sauber, in 8th position. And we're now on lap 3 out of 62.
Yes, Villeneuve's had a great start. He rocketed past Irvine off the line. Hopefully he didn't jump the start. Coulthard got away incredibly cleanly. I just hope he didn't nip that green light, because David definitely got his car moving. He reacted faster than anybody else, but Villeneuve getting away well too, and as you rightly say, Lacey having a good start.
Fastest man on the track, David Coulthard, 1 minute 31.6 on his second lap, and that compares with the lap record of 125.5 by Heinz-Harald Frentzen. You're looking at the very smooth, calm, deliberate David Coulthard, and you can see in the background that Michael Schumacher is giving nothing away, and the gap between him and Villeneuve is staying constant, as it is between Villeneuve and Eddie Irvine, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen is just about 2 seconds in 6th position behind Eddie Irvine 5th. So both the Williams are in the top 6, both the Ferraris are in the top 6, both the McLarens are in the top 6. The top 3 teams are fighting, but David Coulthard's got the race by the throat at the present minute. The top Benetton is in 7th position, and that's Giancarlo Fisichella, with Wirtz seemingly already out of the race, having had, we think, a collision with Damon Hill. And there are 18 people going, and here's a replay.
Here we see Damon, look, coming up the inside. Wirtz got some kind of problem and moves over. No, in fact, it was before that incident. Damon has already had his coming together with Wirtz as we see it now, and really they're doing a replay on the front runners. Damon already making his way back down the field, sadly.
And now we're into lap 4 with David Coulthard 1.5 seconds ahead of his teammate Mika Hakkinen, who is 1.6 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. There is the German who is pulling away from Jacques Villeneuve, try as the French-Canadian may. That's Eddie Irvine in 5th position, behind him Frentzen, and here is Coulthard. And now he is on the Bridgestones, as is Mika Hakkinen. The leading Goodyear runner at the moment is Michael Schumacher. But all is not lost for Ferrari and Schumacher. This race is going to come down to strategy. Are they going to stop once? Are they going to stop twice? If they stop once, it'll be round about lap 33. If they stop twice, the first stop will be round about lap 24. And last year's race was effectively decided on the pit stop when Heinz-Harald Frentzen got ahead of Michael Schumacher, who pursued him to the end. And there is the German, 3rd in this year's San Marino Grand Prix. And Heinz-Harald, last year's winner, is down in 6th position. But Mika Hakkinen is now the fastest man on the track, 1.5 seconds behind Coulthard.
Well, the famous ITV pit crew have already confirmed what I suspected, in that Wirtz was stuck in gear. In fact, he was stuck in 3rd gear. Clearly, he would have been pulling on the paddle behind the steering wheel and nothing doing. And that's why he slowed in the middle of the pack. Hakkinen making a bit of a charge at Coulthard.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen any more than you watching do. But my guess is that the McLarens are going to stop once and that maybe the Ferraris on the softer Goodyear tyres will stop twice, in which case the fact that Coulthard and Häkkinen are leading the race on a heavier fuel load than Michael Schumacher, who will be stopping twice if I'm right, is very significant indeed. You can see the gap now. There is Coulthard, there behind him is Mika Häkkinen, there behind him is Michael Schumacher as David Coulthard goes through and completes his 5th lap into lap 6. Schumacher 3rd, Villeneuve 4th, Irvine is in 5th position, Frentzen 6th, Fisichella 7th, Alesi 8th, 9th is Ralf Schumacher, 10th is Jarno Trulli in the Prost.
I think they'll all stop twice. Remember, one of the new regulations for 98 is that the front brake discs are limited to 28 millimetres of thickness. If you carry a high fuel load on this circuit, it's a hard braking circuit, and I think they could be limited by the front brakes. And all of the cars out there today all of the drivers have got to keep an eye and be sympathetic with the brake. You see Irvine there, spinning his wheels, lost traction.
That's where Villeneuve gets past him. With Villeneuve now, and that's where he got up into 4th position. An absolutely electric start.
Yes, it was good. Eddie had too many revs on, dropped the clutch and just didn't get contact with the road properly. Villeneuve rocketing past him there, and then you saw them going onto the cement dust. Schuey looking a little bit lonely already in 3rd place.
Yeah, and Jean Trut said after the Argentine Grand Prix, which was won by Schumacher, only Michael could have done it. The correct measure of the car, he said, was the way Eddie Irvine was performing. Irvine was in 3rd place, and you can see now that the McLarens are starting to dominate the race. We're on lap 6, roughly 1/10, 62-lap race, as Villeneuve comes into sight, and the 2 McLarens, who are now in effect driving in formation, go through into their 7th lap. David Coulthard goes faster again. The times are coming down all the time. 1 minute 30.3, so that's 4.8 seconds off last year's lap record, which was a speed of 130 miles an hour. But look how close it is behind. And here is Frentzen. He's in 6th position. Right behind him is Fisichella in the blue Benetton. Behind Fisichella is Jean Alesi in the Sauber. Then 9th is Ralf Schumacher. Look for the yellow car. There it is. 10th behind him, Jarno Trulli in the blue Prost. So, getting a bit stretched out at the front, but very, very close behind.
We see 2 Benettons running line to stern there. Wirtz is back in 21st place, so he's not a contender. Remember, he had that pit stop. Obviously, he's rejoined the track after they changed the steering wheel. The electronics were probably working again for him to get back out on the track with a functioning gearbox, but he is a lap behind.
Now, the man to watch at the moment is Giancarlo Fisichella, the second of the 2 cars coming towards us. Behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen, it's my guess that Frentzen is holding him up because Fisichella is closed right up on the Williams. The problem always, of course, is not so much catching the car in front, but getting past it, because their performance is virtually identical. They are all top-line drivers, or they wouldn't be in Formula One, and you've really got to pressure the man in front to make a mistake. That's what Alesi's trying to do to Fisichella. There is Fisichella, and that's what Fisichella is trying to do to Frentzen. Here he is, Frentzen, Fisichella, Alesi. Now, over the line, the leaders are on lap 8. That is Alesi. Behind Alesi is Ralf Schumacher, and Fisichella has a look as they come up to the chicane before Tosa, which they're approaching now. So, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, last year's winner, under real pressure. The Williams team are preparing new parts. They're hoping to be more competitive in Spain and even more competitive at Monaco. They've tried out last year's rear end of the car, found it worked better, and probably the new one will be an amalgam of that and new thinking. But anyway, Heinz-Harald Frentzen is really having his time cut out to keep Fisichella behind him.
And let's remember, Murray, that Frentzen won the race last year for Williams, his first and in fact only win. Running wide there going into, that'll give Fisichella a run at him. Running wide there going into Acqua Minerale and through the exit. Fisichella couldn't make anything stick, but certainly he's making Harry Heinz have to very much work for his Sunday afternoon and looking a bit ragged with it.
Yeah, young Fisichella, he's only 25. This is his third team because he started his career with Minardi. Last year he was in effect on loan to Jordan. Now he's with the Benetton team. His teammate Alexander Wurz, sadly, who's gone so well earlier this season, is not going well in this race. Indeed, he's not going in this race now. Barrichello is out, Wurz is out, Jan Magnussen is out, and here comes Frentzen. Fisichella, push, push, push from Fisichella. Round the left-hander at the Tambirello, up towards the Villeneuve chicane. This is it, named after Gilles Villeneuve, not Jacques, his son, and now Tosa. The battle here. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. And in 9th position, 8th position, John Alesi is inching up on Fisichella in front of him. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen is undoubtedly holding the three up behind him. Look back, the yellow nose car is that of Jean Alesi. The Frenchman, French Sicilian, very, very unhappy with the handling of his Sauber in practicing and in qualifying. But they've obviously done something to it because it's going a lot better now than it has done previously this weekend. And meantime, as we concentrate on this battle for 6th position, up in front, it's still David Coulthard. He is now 2.5 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, who is 5 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher, who is 7 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. In 5th position, 2.6 seconds behind Villeneuve is Eddie Irvine. Here is the battle for 6th, and Frentzen is 4 seconds behind Irvine.
Yes, I don't think I've barely seen Frentzen on the same piece of tarmac twice yet. He's really fighting the car, struggling. He's having to react to what the car does rather than have confidence and predict what it's going to do. And he is really fighting. He does not need Fisichella giving him a hard time at the moment. He's got his own brand of problems. If Fisichella could only get past him, I think he'll walk away easily.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he would. The Benetton is handling much better than the Williams. The Benetton is on Bridgestone tyres. The Williams is on Goodyear tyres. Probably not a lot of difference there. But in the meantime, Jean Alesi is not making up any ground on Fisichella in front of him. And Ralf Schumacher is out of sight now. He's in 9th place. 10th is Trulli. Damon Hill has not rejoined the race, and so we've got 18 out of the 22 starters still running on lap 10.
Yeah, Damon is back in 19th, Murray. Damon is running, but way back in 19th place.
Well, so 3 out, Magnussen, Wurz and Barrichello. Barrichello, Stewart, Wurz is Benetton, Magnussen, Stewart, and still we concentrate on Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who joined the Williams team from Sauber last year. Took him quite a long time to get settled in now. Here's Coulthard starting a new lap. That is Häkkinen behind him. Look back and you'll see how far back Michael Schumacher is. Is he getting too out of touch for a different strategy to help him?
Well, I don't think there's anything he can do. His car's just not fast enough. In fact, it's not as fast as I expected him to be, unless he is going for a one-stopper as a way of keeping track position. He's really not fighting anybody behind him. He doesn't have the pace to fight the two in front of him. I guess the only thing he can do is try and be different, but I'd be amazed if he is on a one-stopper. Fisichella nowhere near enough, but at least it'll give Frentzen something else to worry about. Frentzen getting on the power and the back end sliding nicely, but Fisichella really harrying him. That's all you can do. If you can't cleanly get past, you can try and distract him and just keep moving your nose about. Let him have to look in the mirrors. That way he may miss his braking point, or he may get on the throttle a touch too early, and then that's your chance. Wurz is trying to mix it. He is back in 20th place, 1 lap behind, and well, Wurz really just needs to stay out of that fight. The last thing Benetton needs is for Wurz to overtake Fisichella.
Damon Hill there, 19th, and he's up behind Shinji Nakano in the Minardi, the Japanese driver in the Italian car, and in front of both of them is Ricardo Rosset, the Brazilian in the Tyrrell. Jan Magnussen definitely out of the race, and Damon Hill swarming about and gets through. Damon Hill gets through and passes Nakano, who I suspected realised he got a much quicker car and a much better driver behind him and moved over.
Well, Nakano and the tail enders will see and recognise a faster car behind them, probably not even realising they're racing for position. But there's no point, the tail enders that Damon's now coming up to, there's no point in them holding off. They know he's going to pass them sooner rather than later, so they may as well just let him through. Damon's problem is when he comes up to 13th, 14th place, Panis, Salo and those kind of people, they're not going to let him through. They're going to understand they're racing for position.
Here we are, Frentzen and Fisichella still at it, but having passed Nakano, Damon's next target is Ricardo Rosset, then Tuero. They shouldn't be too difficult. Pedro Diniz will be, and good news for Arrows enthusiasts is that Mika Salo, who's got the new and more powerful Brian Hart designed Arrows V10 engine here in the race, was second fastest in the warm-up, and they swear that they were not running on a low fuel load, and he's in 12th position, and what's more, he's still running on lap 12. Good news, because Arrows, like Stewart and Prost, have had massive troubles with their carbon fibre gearbox.
Well, maybe what Fisichella should do is let Wirtz past, and there's Damon going for another one on the outside of, he's on a charge, isn't he? I'd love to see that. On the outside of the Tamburello chicane, Damon having a go for another position with Rosset. This should be relatively easy meet as long as Damon doesn't trip over him in his total frustration. Remember, we spoke to Damon on the grid and he was really looking forward to this race. What I was saying is maybe Fisichella should let Wirtz pass and have a good punt at Frentzen, and that'll give Fisichella a clean run at the pair of them.
Martin, it's easy for me to say this, but Rosset is a slow driver. He hasn't covered himself in glory in Formula One this season. Should he not, realising Damon Hill is there, move over?
No, he shouldn't, in fairness to him. He's covered himself in more gravel than glory this year, but he is racing for position. This is Formula One. It's the pinnacle of the sport. You don't let anybody pass.
6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, you're looking at them. Frentzen, Fisichella, Alesi. Here is Frentzen. Behind him is Fisichella. Behind him is Alesi. Well,
Alesi, of course, looking at the back of a Benetton, the car he drove for a couple of years, and he's got a buffer of Wirtz between him and his next target, which is Fisichella, but Alesi's only just in touch. Louise Goodman is down in the Stewart garage, where it must be pretty grim, Louise.
It is fairly grim down here. We saw Rubens going out on lap 1. Now, it was difficult for us to tell who hit him. Difficult for him to tell as well, but he thinks it may have been his teammate, Jan Magnussen. Now, there's already talk that Magnussen's going to be replaced after this race, so if it was him, that's not going to have done his case any good. Magnussen has also retired. He went out a few laps later. It's a broken gearbox to put him out.
And bad news also for Johnny Herbert. You saw him retiring there, switching the engine off, so some kind of technical problem for Johnny. And that's Damon finally getting past the Tyrrell of Rosset.
So Damon Hill is now up to 15th position with the retirement of Johnny Herbert, unfortunately, and having got past Rosset. And still Frentzen is keeping off Fisichella behind him. The second Benetton, of course, is that of Alexander Wirtz, who's been lapped. He's a lap down, having come into the pits, but he's hanging on to his teammate, staying ahead of Jean Alesi. So you've got 6th, 7th, 20th and 8th, with Jean Alesi in that 8th position ahead of Ralf Schumacher, 2.6 seconds further back, and the 10th man is Jarno Trulli. But there's obviously a heck of a lot of work to do on
this is where Fisichella has to have a stab. Go on, up the inside. No, that's his only chance. You can't overtake into Tamburello or Villeneuve. The entry speed's too high. It's got to be into a slower second gear corner where you have a bigger braking area. And I thought Fisichella had his best chance of the race, but in fairness to him, he was still quite a long way back. It's so difficult to follow the car in front closely through 100-mile-an-hour chicanes. You get a dirty air coming off the back of his rear wing, and it's turbulence over your car. Your car's working less well, just as you need a little bit extra.
But at the front, you're not seeing much of the McLarens because the producer is concentrating on this battle for 6th position. It's the action on the track. But the McLarens are victoriously out there. They're on their 15th lap out of 62. David Coulthard is now 4.5 seconds ahead of Häkkinen. And in 3rd position, it's Michael Schumacher as we go to a break.
Und Ralf Schumacher sehen wir hinter Jean Alesi auftauchen. Und dass wir ihn da auftauchen sehen, bestätigt uns jetzt auch der Computer. Denn Ralf Schumacher ist jetzt die letzten 2 Runden jedes Mal schneller gewesen als Alesi. mit einer 1:31,9 und davor mit einer 1:31,7. Zum Vergleich dazu Alesi jetzt zuletzt 1:32,5.
Also das schaut mir sehr nach einer gebrochenen Radaufhängung oder Plattfuß aus. Ja, Plattfuß. Dann heben die, nachdem ein Rad keine Luft mehr hat, senkt sich das Auto ab, die Vorderachse geht in die Luft. Man kann nur noch mit einem Rad lenken, ist nicht sehr lustig.
Und Johnny Herbert ist halt auch mittlerweile ausgestiegen, also damit nach Magnussen der Zweite aus dem Rennen. Der Dritte, denn wir haben ja auch noch Rubens Barrichello gehabt. Also 3 sind draußen. Der letzte und 19. im Feld ist Alex Wurz. Ja, aber dafür trotzdem gutes Tempo mitfährt, nämlich das von Fisichella und Jean Alesi, denn zwischen den beiden ist er gar eingeklemmt.
Wenn man so wie der David Coulthard ein Rennen dominieren kann, hat man natürlich auch ein bisschen mehr Zeit, darüber nachzudenken, wie man denn am besten fährt. Und das ist immer das Schlimmste, weil am angenehmsten ist es für einen Rennfahrer immer, wenn er mit Rennfahren beschäftigt ist, einfach nur mit Gegnern und später bremsen und ich möchte jetzt vorbeikommen am anderen. Wenn man so allein vor sich hinfährt, hat man manchmal einfach ein bisschen zu viel Zeit, war zumindest meine Erfahrung immer. Aber der David macht es im Moment zumindest noch bravourös.
Lap 16 out of 62 at Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix. Sadly, Johnny Herbert out of the race in the Sauber with, we suspect, broken suspension. David Coulthard is steadily increasing his lead over Mika Häkkinen as you watch Jacques Villeneuve really sliding the Williams, and that's Eddie Irvine behind him. The gap was 2 seconds, but it'll be a bit closer than that now. Coulthard leads Häkkinen by about 7 seconds. Schumacher is 9 seconds behind Coulthard and catching Häkkinen. That's interesting. Villeneuve is 4th, Irvine is 5th. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in 6th position. And the rest of the top 10, Fisichella, Alesi, Ralf Schumacher, Jarno Trulli. Damon Hill is down in 15th position. And 6th, 7th, here they are. 8th is Alesi in the yellow-nosed car, because the second blue one is the Benetton of Alexander Wurz, who's actually been lapped due to a long pit stop, but he joined where he is now, and you can see that he's keeping... Oh, and that's Schumacher passing Mika Häkkinen. Michael Schumacher passes Mika Häkkinen, who's obviously in trouble. And this is the World Championship leader. Mika Häkkinen, who's leading the World Championship, is touring.
Yes, Häkkinen had a problem on the previous lap, lost 2 seconds, and clearly whatever that problem was has come home, and obviously it's not an engine problem, it must be either a brake problem or a transmission problem.
Well, we know he had brake problems in the warm-up, he had boiling brake fluid, but this transforms the World Championship situation, or could do, because when this race started, Mika Häkkinen was 12 points ahead of Michael Schumacher. Now, if Schumacher can finish in 2nd place or even win this race, he's going to really eat into that gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen. And Schumacher is ahead of David Coulthard, and Mika Häkkinen goes into the pit lane now, as you see the Williams of Jacques Villeneuve move up into 3rd place. Now, let's see.
And I don't know if Coulthard had a back marker on that last lap, but he also did a time 3 seconds per lap slower than he's been running so far. So, David, maybe they've radioed...
He's out.
Maybe they've radioed to David to slow down or something, because David lost a lot of time on the previous lap. I hope he doesn't have the same problem.
No points for Mika Häkkinen, and Michael Schumacher is now 16 seconds behind Coulthard and catching him.
Yeah, but Coulthard, look, there's 2 slower cars behind him. I think Coulthard probably had to lap somebody. Now, Mika is very, very hard on the brakes. I don't know if it is a braking problem he has, but Mika attacks the braking areas stronger than anybody else. And there's a car off.
Somebody off. Let's see what's happened. See the marshal running, looking back. Come on, let's have a look at more of the track. Look at the crowd. Look at where they are looking. Why can't we see it? Well, there is David Coulthard now, coming through to complete his 18th
It's
lap.
Fisichella. It's Fisichella. Is off the
gone
road.
off. Fisichella's gone off, apparently. We haven't seen it, but Fisichella, who was in 7th position, has apparently gone off. There he is. There's the Benetton. It's gone off backwards. You can see them rolling his rear wheel. So a terrible race for Benetton. First of all, Wurz comes into the pits. There's nobody in the Benetton cockpit. Now here's a replay. Frentzen and Fisichella just slides off backwards, straight into the tyre wall. He should be okay. The fact that he's out of the car is a very good sign indeed. The fact that he's not there, and already the tractor is removing the Benetton. What a race this is turning out to be. Lap 19, Coulthard leads Schumacher by 16 seconds. Häkkinen is out. Here's a replay.
Yeah, as you see, Fisichella has already lost it before the corner and just simply goes straight to the scene of the accident. There's the tractor pulling him away. But I'd like to see what generated that. There's Häkkinen back in the pits. An early shower for Mika, the first major disappointment he's had this year so far. Now we're on board with Fisichella. Look, coming down into the... no, in fact, we're on board with Wurz. It's the Villeneuve chicane. He's lost it on the way into the Villeneuve chicane and straight in the wall. Now James is down in the pits, in the McLaren pits.
Yeah, very disconsolate, Mika Häkkinen, wondering about. The engineers are all looking at the telemetry, but I've been told it's a gearbox failure, Martin.
Well, it has to happen sometime. Very few mechanical devices work perfectly forever. Mika won in Australia, he won in Brazil, he was second in Argentina, and Louise has got Johnny Herbert with her.
Oh, Johnny, I thought after South America your luck might change. It doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, well, it's a bit frustrating once again. It was a bit frustrating with the start, 'cause I think Wurz and Damon must have had something going on up the front. I had to brake because they were sort of blocking my track on the left, and then Damon, I think he must have had some damage, I guess, and then I got stuck behind him through the chicane, passed him, and as I passed him, then Truly passed me, and then a few laps later, or whatever laps later at the top chicane, the car seemed to sort of lurch down. It looked as if it possibly could have been a suspension, I thought, but when I got back it was a puncture.
Bad luck.
Okay.
And while you were talking, Alexander Wurz has retired. We've seen him pull off the track. So both Benettons are out of the race on lap 20, and Michael Schumacher is continuing to catch David Coulthard. That's Pedro Diniz out. There is Alexander Wurz, and already Herbert Magnussen and Barrichello were out. Now this race has still got a long way to go. We're on lap 20, that's only about 1/3 distance, and that was Wurz's trouble. A blown Mechachrome engine. That's the same engine, they call it a Playlife, but it's a Mechachrome, and it's the same engine that is in the Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Villeneuve.
See the marshals, they can't resist squirting their fire extinguisher all over the cars. It's their moment of glory. It takes the mechanics about 3 days to clean the cars up after that.
Now look at Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari. He's fourth and he's right up with Jacques Villeneuve in third position. The gap between Villeneuve and Schumacher, who is second, is some 18 seconds. But now Coulthard on lap 21, the fastest man on the track, is leading Schumacher by 15 seconds, and he's consolidated his lead as we watch the battle for third.
We're into the two-stopper territory, really. 20 laps onwards. I think even if they are two-stopping, several of the cars will make a longer first stint, and that way you can always transfer to a one-stopper if your track position dictates that. But clearly there, Irvine getting on a charge and giving Jacques Villeneuve something fresh to think about.
Coming up to Tosa, the left-hander.
Villeneuve first, is chasing Villeneuve through the Villeneuve corner, named after Villeneuve's dad, of course. And Eddie Irvine has been driving very well all weekend, is suddenly getting in the groove.
Fourth on the grid for the San Marino Grand Prix, and of course he was third in Argentina. And Eddie really reacted extremely well to these new side pod-mounted wings on the Ferrari. He's been doing all the testing, and it wasn't until yesterday that Michael Schumacher used them. As into the pits comes Tiger Takagi in the Tyrrell. We're on lap 21. David Coulthard has gone faster again because he's just gone round in 1:29.5. That's exactly 4 seconds slower than last year's lap record, and it's significant that here at Imola, the narrower cars and the groove tyres have resulted in the cars going slower in comparison to last year than they have at any of the previous 3 circuits. And in comes the Minardi now of Shinji Nakano, who's in 14th position. Top 10, lap 22, Coulthard leads Schumacher by 16 seconds. Villeneuve is 20 seconds further behind, but only 1 second ahead of Irvine, 4th. Frentzen 5th, Alesi 6th, Schumacher, Ralph 7th, just coming into the pits. Jarno Trulli is 8th, Panis is 9th, and Tora Takagi, that we've just seen come into the pits, is 10th, and there is Ralph Schumacher from 7th. Damon Hill is now moved up into the top 10, maybe the top 8.
Very calm
Now,
pit
this
stop
is
there.
a 2-stop strategy that the Jordan is on.
Yes, it is. You saw on the lollipop it says in gear. That's to tell them that the rear wheels are on, because there's a clunk as they put it into gear. And the other side of the lollipop says brakes on. It looks like no brakes when they turn it over, but it says brakes on, so that when the mechanic goes on with the wheel and the new wheel nut, he's got a still wheel spindle to have a go at. So the driver has quite a lot of systems to go through while he's sitting there patiently waiting for his new set of boots.
Well, they say that what goes... They say that what goes around comes around. David Coulthard gave the win to Mika Häkkinen in Australia, and now Häkkinen is out. And if David stays where he is, he will have 10 World Championship points, which will lift him up to very nearly the same as Mika Häkkinen.
Well, it's an important day for David, and there's a long, long way to go yet, but he's absolutely peerless around this track today. He was looking supreme in the warm-up and got a good start, and he's really looking totally comfortable, pulling away from Schumacher easily. 17.7 seconds in the lead now. He's answering a lot of the critics. David's taken a bit of stick recently over things he had to do in Melbourne and the incident in Argentina, but I think he's answering those very, very well today. Alesi on his pit stop, if they can give him a very quick turnaround, that's a great turnaround, then he may just be able to move closer to Frentzen and get ahead. Well, Wirtz is out of the race anyway. He's racing Frentzen. James has some details about Wirtz, actually.
Yeah, it's been a rough day for Benetton, Martin. Alex Wirtz, as I said at the beginning, stuck in 3rd gear since the start, and that's collision, of course, with Damon Hill. And what simply happened was it was spewing out oil ever since. They knew it was inevitable the engine would go, but good old Alex, he's a fighter. He kept his foot in, and sure enough, the engine blew up, but that was the cause of that one.
Well, there's 17 seconds between Coulthard leading and Schumacher second, but you can see how close it is between 3rd and 4th. Here they are, world champion Jacques Villeneuve, higher up than he's been for most of this year in the Williams Mechachrome, ahead of Eddie Irvine in the home Ferrari, storming along behind him in 4th place ahead of Frentzen.
Yes, I don't believe Wirtz was stuck in 3rd gear all the time. He couldn't go as far. He was keeping up with the pace of the leaders, so he probably had some gearbox problems, but if he's saying that they were stuck in 3rd, I don't believe that one. As we see the other Minardi of Tuero, the 19-year-old, or 20 I think he is now, your old Argentinian. I don't know what it is with the pit stops from Minardi. They just never seem to quite work right.
Well, 15 out of 22 are running now on lap 24 out of 62, and there's going to be some more retirements. We're riding now with Eddie Irvine, chasing ahead Jacques Villeneuve. That's a wonderful wing shot from the Ferrari, and you can see how close they are as the Prost comes into the pits, and that will be Olivier Panis, and he is in, or was in, 6th position. His teammate Jarno Trulli has just been in and gone out again. Out falls Olivier Panis on a 2-stop strategy, 7 seconds at an excellent stop, as down to the Rivazza again as they climb out of the out of Tosa and up towards the Variante Alta. Eddie Irvine, look! Now, there's the comparison between Irvine, who is in 4th position, and Frentzen behind him, and you can see that Heinz-Harald Frentzen is catching the Ferrari, so it's a tremendously close battle, or will be very shortly, between Jacques Villeneuve there, Eddie Irvine there, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's about 8 seconds behind them in 5th position, and up into 6th position should have gone Jean Alesi. On the order on lap 25 out of 62, coming up towards half distance with another stop for virtually all the cars. But remember, Coulthard has not yet been in, Schumacher has not yet been in, Villeneuve that you're watching has not yet been in, nor has Eddie Irvine. Indeed, the highest runner who's been in is Olivier Panis in the Prost.
Lovely power slide there from Eddie Irvine, suggesting his rear tyres are getting a little bit second-hand, but they're getting very, very well into the, or almost past the two-stop window. So that long first stint, and well, they're going to surprise me if they all end up one-stopping, but no sign of anybody in the pit lane for Ferrari or Williams.
No, the top 5 have yet to come in. We're on lap 25, and a one-stop strategy would start bringing them in round about lap 33. Damon Hill comes in from 9th position, and he was only 2 seconds behind Panis.
You saw the man holding his arm out. That is for Damon to be able to see where to stop his front tyre. You can't see the lower part of your own front wheel, so they hold their hand out and say, this is the point to stop, because that's where all the wheel guns are ready to go straight onto the wheel nuts. If you move away a few centimetres from that, you slow down your own pit stop. James is in the pits with yet more news.
Fascinating game going on here, Martin. Schumacher last time round was given the pit board to come in, but they hid it from the McLaren team who are behind them. In other words, they couldn't see the front of the Ferrari pit board. Now they've just clocked the fact that Schumacher's coming in, and all hell's broken loose on the wall at McLaren. Ron Dennis is having a good look at this. The Ferrari mechanics are out. Michael Schumacher coming in very soon. The lost time here is 20 seconds. That's how much time he'll lose when he comes in, compared to what time he would have done if he'd stayed out on the track. So you make your calculations from there, Martin.
Well, I know some of the teams have got moles in England watching ITV because they can pick up information there that they can't get from the tracks, amazingly enough. And we're on lap 26 now as you watch the third place man, double world champion Michael Schumacher, 20 seconds behind David Coulthard, who's very rapidly getting towards a situation where he can come in and make his stop and still retain the lead.
Well, remember the Goodyear runners are on the softer tyre. That's triggered it now. Williams and McLaren are both ready in the pit lane, and now they're bringing Coulthard in. They may as well bring him in, but I think his tyres could do the first stint completely. But there's other factors, as we've already mentioned, the brakes, etc. They've reacted. He's got a 20-second lead. He may as well stop. Nice and calm, David. Nicely done. That's going to keep you in the lead of the race. No time on the screen, unfortunately, but it looks pretty good.
Coming in.
Shimmy in the pits.
So Schumacher is adopting the same strategy as the McLarens, and Michael Schumacher comes into the pit lane. An excellent stop. The Ferrari mechanics are really good on the pit stops. Now he's got to watch his speed, 75 miles an hour. This is race leader David Coulthard out on a new set of Bridgestones on his 27th lap as Jacques Villeneuve comes in third position. Eddie Irvine goes through.
All the black smoke you see coming off the front there is the pneumatic gun blowing away all of the brake dust. That gives you an idea of the brake wear on this racetrack. You saw the cloud of black carbon dust as the guy went on with the pneumatic gun. David Coulthard now into Acqua Minerale. He really doesn't have to push too hard. It appears he could have as much as 1.5 seconds per lap in his pocket as the Williams builds up speed there. And it was a long time building up, so I don't know why he was going so slowly all the way down to Tamburello. But there's the Ferrari pit. That must be
That'll be for Eddie Irvine. Eddie Irvine will be coming in the lap after his team leader. And Villeneuve is balked there by, guess who, Ricardo Rosset.
Yes, that was the bit I was telling you about. I don't really know why Villeneuve was so slow down to Tamburello, but anyway, that allowed some back markers to get past him, but he's put that right very quickly.
Yeah, Rosset's having his own fight, of course, because behind him he's got Shinji Nakano, the Japanese driver in the Minardi. So Rosset was fighting to hold his 14th place as Villeneuve came up to lap him, having already gone past Nakano. 15 of the 22 left. Deniz is out. Hakkinen is out with a gearbox problem. Fisichella is out, Wurz is out, Herbert is out, as are Magnussen and Barrichello. Irvine into the pits. Now Eddie Irvine comes in from 4th position, and he was 10 seconds ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who it's going to be a very close run thing, but I'm watching the track while you're watching the screen, and I'm waiting to see if Frentzen gets through. Irvine coming out of the pit lane now. Frentzen is in the pits. Frentzen has come into the pits. So the status quo is maintained there to the delight of the Ferrari crowd, or rather the Italian crowd in front of me, who are happy to see Ferrari doing well. They're second and third at the moment. Coulthard leads, Schumacher second, Irvine third, Frentzen fourth. Villeneuve down to fifth position with that pit stop. Here he is coming towards us. And in sixth place is Jean Alesi. And it's time at San Marino, Imola, for a break.
Vor David Coulthard, dahinter Michael Schumacher.
Noch ein Wort zu dem Tankdeckel. Das ist hoffentlich nur die Verkleidung, die offen ist. Es ist also nicht so, dass dort Benzin rauskommt. Normalerweise ist dort ein Ventil. Dieses Ventil schließt automatisch, wenn man den Tankrüssel rauszieht. Nur die Klappe ist dann für die Aerodynamik die Verkleidung und die geht dann automatisch zu. Es ist also zu hoffen für Jacques, dass er da eigentlich eher ein optisches als ein technisches Problem hat.
Michael Schumacher ist jetzt wieder über die Linie gekommen. 22,7 Sekunden der Rückstand und Tom Walkinshaw kommt da selbst und schaut nach, was da wieder schief geht. Dienitz, sein erster Mann, ist ja schon draußen und jetzt auch Probleme bei Salo.
Ja, hat fast ein bisschen nach einem Missverständnis ausgeschaut. Vielleicht hat ihm irgendeiner über Funk irgendetwas erzählt und bei der Gelegenheit hat er ganz vergessen zu schauen, dass er eigentlich wieder losfahren sollte. Oder er hat auf ein Signal über Funk gewartet, dass er losfahren soll. Ralf Schumacher hier an 7. Stelle auch schön vorgekommen und jetzt vor Oliver Panis. Oh, das ist schön eng.
Und mittendrin im Getümmel ist Heinz-Harald Frentzen, jetzt vorbei am Minardi. Und vor ihm ist Jean Alesi. Es waren jetzt alle in der Box, also wir haben ein wirklich bereinigtes Klassement mit Coulthard, Schumacher, Michael, Eddie Irvine, dann Villeneuve, dann Jean Alesi, Heinz-Harald Frentzen auf 6 und Ralf Schumacher auf 7. Also alle haben jetzt regulär ihre Stops hinter sich. Salo auf Platz 10 und Damon Hill auf Platz 11 waren sogar schon zweimal in der Box. Bedingt durch Probleme zu Beginn des Rennens. Und wenn Sie sich jetzt wundern und denken, ui, ist da das gleiche passiert wie in Argentinien? Ist da dem Prost ein Flügel weggeflogen? Das haben wir ja in Argentinien bei Jean Alesi gesehen. Da müssen wir sagen, nein, das ist Absicht, denn diese Konstruktion oder diese Technik mit einem Flügel hier zu fahren, haben sie heute Morgen im Warm-up ausbaldowert und ausprobiert.
Ja, also der Prost.
Off distance and out of the race goes the looks like a Minardi.
I think it's the Minardi. It's the Japanese guy.
It's Nakano. It's Nakano who is holding people up, but he's out of the race now. But on lap 30, here's what happened. Oh.
Well, it looks
major
like
engine blow up, and you just see Heinz-Harald Frentzen there.
Yes, the pistons are having a little talk with the valves in that engine, and the net result is there the oil gets mixed with the water and the spark, and up it goes. Wow, that's a nice one, isn't it? That's an oil fire. That's not a fuel fire. That's an oil fire, and you'll see it going out quite quickly.
Now,
there it is.
I mean, my immediate reaction, Martin, is if that doesn't clear, they'll have to bring the safety car out and slow the whole race up.
I'm winging it on this, but I think it was between Acqua Minerale and Variante Alta on the straight, off the racing line, and he pulled it away from the racing line. So there might be a bit of rubbish on the track, but I don't think they'll be throwing any safety cars for that one.
Riding with Frentzen, who's lost his place to Jean Alesi after a superb pit stop from the Sauber people. That's Alesi ahead of us, lap 31. This is half distance, and Coulthard leads Schumacher. Third is Eddie Irvine. So Ferrari's second and third, and the Italian crowd will be praying for Coulthard to break down, and James Allen has got Alexander Wurz with him.
Alex, a real heartbreak for you. You thought a podium might be on today, but obviously a lot of problems.
Yes, I mean, at the start, I went away good. I thought, okay, I'll catch the and maybe Michael. But then I wanted to change the gears, and I was stuck in first gear, so I had to drive the whole lap in first gear. Came in, changed steering wheel, and then I went out and carried on. I just wanted to finish the race. I mean, no more points would have been possible. But just race finish, and then the engine blow up.
What happened with Damon Hill? You had contact, right?
I don't know, but I was on first gear, and I drove down in the middle of the field in first gear. And it was very scary, but I couldn't upchange. I didn't know. I don't know if I contacted him.
Bad luck, Alex.
Well, you saw Mika Salo in the pits for the second time. They didn't get the fuel in first time around. They obviously had some kind of fuel rig problem. As Panis goes up the inside of Ralf Schumacher for 7th place. Panis, a nice move. That's a very difficult place to overtake, and a nicely carried out move there by Panis in his Prost Peugeot on the Bridgestones, of course, slithering up the inside of Ralf, who really couldn't do anything about it.
Well, if David Coulthard wins this race, he will be second in the World Championship. Just
stop, Murray, stop. Don't talk about him winning the race.
I said if he wins it. I'm always very careful, Martin. All right, I'm starting, so I'm finished.
We'll talk about if Schumacher finished second.
He'll be just 2 points behind. And if Michael Schumacher finishes in second place, it's going to be a tremendously close fight at the top of the Drivers' Championship. And of course, the fact that McLaren is out means the maximum points that the team can get in the Constructors' Championship today is 10 points. Whereas Ferrari at the present moment, with Schumacher that you're watching, who's in second place, and Irvine, who is in third place, are also on a team 10 points. Lap 32, Coulthard and Schumacher, Irvine, Villeneuve, Alesi and Frentzen.
Okay, apparently James Allen's been having a good look around the tyres that came off the cars during the pit stops, and the Bridgestones are looking good. Not a major problem with the Goodyears, but apparently they look a little bit more angry, and we've seen that as the Goodyear runners have been snaking around coming out of the chicanes trying to deliver the power, as David Coulthard comes up to the back of Jarno Trulli to lap him. So he's coming up to lap 9th place man.
Yeah, Jarno Trulli is allegedly getting a bit disenchanted with the Prost team. He's had a very unhappy run this year. They've had so many gearbox problems, which they think they have now got on top of. The car is more reliable than it was, but of course they haven't been able to get the racing miles in to develop the car.
Well, Jarno Trulli is way too early into Formula One to be getting fed up with Grand Prix teams. He's also been off the road a little bit, but yes, they've not been delivering the kind of performance everybody expected of them in the Prost team.
So with David Coulthard out of the Piratella down to the Aqua Minerale.
It's so physical through here, especially the second stop where you bury the car into the foot of the hill. The load, the torque going through the steering wheel is enormous, and really it just slightly hurts your ribs and your lungs as you bury it into the bottom of the hill. You have to be so accurate. David giving those nasty curves at Variante Alta a pretty wide berth, and why should he push any harder? He's got a 26-second lead.
And here are Alesi and Frentzen, but Louise Goodman is with Mika Häkkinen.
Can you tell us what the problem was?
Gearbox, and that was the main problem. I lost the 4th gear, and without that it is impossible to continue racing, really. So obviously you can imagine I'm very disappointed, but I guess I have a lot of experience in my career to have situations like this, but it happened, so nothing what I can do now.
Well, a very philosophical Mika Häkkinen, who's got the consolation of knowing that whatever happens, he's going to be leading the World Championship when they go to the next race in Spain on May the 10th. And chasing hard now is Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Red Williams, trying to get to grips with Jean Alesi in 5th position in the Sauber. These are they.
I thought that was a very mature response there from Mika. He's been driving brilliantly all year, deserves to be leading the World Championship, and I thought that's the only response you can have. You know, in 16 Grand Prix, in 3 or 4 of them, you're going to have an error, run into a back marker, a couple of mechanical failures as a normal season, and when it happens, you just have to look forward to the next race.
Well, it just shows that nobody, no individual, no team is invulnerable. Even McLaren have been going as well as they have done this year. Heinz-Harald Frentzen exits the Traguardo and starts now his 34th lap, going round the Tamburello up to the Tamburello chicane behind Jean Alesi. Alesi really has worked wonders, or his team have, with the car. He was moaning about it yesterday, walking around with a face like a fiddle. This is the man who was 5th in Argentina and is 5th here.
I've been trying to work out when and how Eddie Irvine got ahead of Jacques Villeneuve for the 3rd place. We haven't seen it on the TV. I see nothing on the computers. I can only assume it involved the in-lap to the pit stop itself, and the out-lap. We did see Jacques getting caught up in those back markers, and I think that's flip-flopped Eddie Irvine up into third place.
Now, funnily enough, Eddie Irvine was saying yesterday when he qualified fourth on the grid, it takes a lot of the pressure off me here. I wouldn't have thought he was under pressure. At Ferrari, he's gone very well.
Well, he's under pressure to do a good job, and alongside Michael Schumacher, he got the Ferrari on the second row of the grid, did everything that could be expected of him, and he's driving beautifully. And obviously, Eddie has responded well to that. We're going to take a break.
Der David Coulthard befindet, einfacher zu lösen. Denn
Er ist so kompromisslos dadurch.
Richtig, er kann sich das ein bisschen, ich würde sagen, gemütlicher angehen, aber er hat mehr Zeit, er muss kein Risiko eingehen einfach.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen mit Jean Alesi im Blick und Olivier Panis, der sich da vorhin sehr schön spektakulär Ralf Schumacher gepackt hatte, ist dem jetzt schon ziemlich deutlich davon gefahren. Also jetzt Vorsprung von Panis auf Ralf Schumacher schon 6,4 Sekunden. Allein in der letzten Runde hat Panis 1,2 Sekunden auf Ralf Schumacher gewonnen.
Ja, da haben wir gesehen, der David hat tatsächlich ein bisschen Probleme im Verkehr gehabt und wird auch in Zukunft noch ein paar haben, denn da sind noch ein paar Autos vor ihm. Aber das Schlimmste, was einem da passieren kann, ist, dass man einen Fehler macht, ohne dass man... Aha, Boxenstopp.
Und der nächste Prost rein. Jarno Trulli. Er lag auf Platz 10. Und der fährt nicht zu einem normalen Boxenstopp, sondern der fährt und macht Feierabend. Das ist, glaube ich, auch immer für die Mechaniker ein ganz blöder Moment. Bei vielen tut es auch richtig weh in der Geldbörse, denn viele haben ja auch Verträge, wo sie Punkteprämie kriegen, aber auch so.
Hier noch ein Wort zu diesen Ausflügen über die Kiesbetten. Ich meine, da kann natürlich schon allein kaputt gehen an so einem Auto. Man hat den Kies ja geändert. Also das ist eine andere Qualität Kies als früher, so dass die Autos zwar abgebremst werden, dass man aber nicht gleich völlig drin versinkt, solange man einigermaßen gerade drüber kommt. Also wenn man quer reinfährt, bleibt man stecken, kommt nicht mehr raus. Wenn man so wie Jarno Trulli einigermaßen weiterkommt, hat man als Fahrer noch die Chance, aus dem Kiesbett wieder rauszukommen.
Lap 37 out of 62, you are watching David Coulthard coming up to Olivier Panis, who is in 7th position, to lap the Frenchman. And Panis's teammate, the Italian Jarno Trulli, has just retired his Prost after running off into the gravel trap at the Rivazza. And Panis moves over at Tosa, lets David Coulthard through. So David Coulthard, the race leader, on his way, he certainly hopes, and so will thousands of people, to another Grand Prix victory, has now lapped everybody up to Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Williams, who is in 6th position. 5th is Alesi, 4th is Villeneuve, 3rd is Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari, 2nd is Michael Schumacher, who is 25 seconds behind race leader Coulthard that you are looking at.
Damon Hill's having a brilliant drive. He's only 7 seconds behind his teammate Ralf Schumacher, back there in 9th place. Remember, on the first lap, had that coming together, had a long pit stop, put him at the back of the field. A great charge from Damon Hill.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to compare lap times. Damon Hill's last lap time was about 1 minute 32, which is up with most of them except the top leaders. David Coulthard has just gone round in a 1 minute 29. So the Jordans have made a lot of ground, but they've obviously still got a lot of ground to make up as Schumacher sails over the hill, and appropriately into the pits comes Ralf Schumacher, 8th, and Louise Goodman.
Yeah, Ralph's coming into the pits. He wasn't actually due in here until lap 42. He's had to come in early. Now, the reason he's come in early is because the fuel flap on the side of the car had come open out on the track. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Martin, but I think the regulations say that that flap has to be closed at all times when the car is out on the service. That could give us a problem later on.
Well, we have seen them in qualifying flapping around. It's the first time we've seen it in the race, and I have to confess I'm not aware of that regulation. Normally, if you've got that problem, they would have to black flag you to bring you in with an orange circle on the flag to say you've got a technical problem. That hasn't happened. Maybe the team brought them in before the stewards did.
This is Eddie Irvine into the Tamburello at 175 miles an hour. Through the chicane, down to 70 miles an hour left. Then the speed builds up again to another 175 miles an hour as he goes into the Villeneuve chicane, and the Tyrrell mechanics are waiting to bring in either Rosset, who is in 12th position, or his teammate Tora Takagi, who is in 10th place. So one of the McLarens is running, Coulthard. Both the Ferraris are running, 2nd and 3rd. Both the Williams are running, 4th and 6th. Only one of the Salvers is running, with Johnny Herbert out of the race. Only one of the Prost is running, Olivier Panis in 7th position. Both the Jordans are running, Schumacher, Ralph 8th, and Damon Hill is in 9th position. Both the Tyrrells are going. One of the Minardis, Tuero, with his teammate, is out of the race. And that is it. 13 out of the 22 cars and drivers who started are still running. We're on lap 39, coming up towards 2/3 distance, which, as near as makes no difference, is lap 40. Ricardo Rosset exits the pit lane at 75 miles an hour, and coming towards us is second place man Michael Schumacher on 6 potential world championship points for Ferrari.
Yeah, Schumacher's slightly faster than Coulthard the last 2 or 3 laps, but David is working his way through the traffic. So not only is David 23.9 seconds ahead, he's 4 or 5 cars as well, which is very significant.
Well, Ferrari have been chipping away. They're the only team that are really competitive to McLaren at the moment. Sadly, Williams have not been this year. Sadly, Benetton, who were very close, are not competitive in this race with both their cars out. Fisichella and Wurz some time ago, and Jordan, for that matter, of course, have still got a heck of a lot to do, although they're going much better here. Back with Eddie Irvine.
This is Irvine running wide into and across the grass. I don't think there's going to be any harm done here. We haven't seen the net result of this, but Irvine running wide into the Tamburello chicane. The Ferrari team watching anxiously. Damon Hill there going through. That's not for position because Salo's had a couple of pit stops. Michael Schumacher now putting on a charge. He's obviously realised the only way to win this race is to try to put David Coulthard under some kind of pressure, and he's now taking 3/4 of a second a lap away from David. David clearly can go a lot faster, and now he's going to have to get back on it again.
Now, Michael Schumacher has got a problem, of course. He's got to get past Mika Salo to lap him. Salo should move over. He's an experienced driver, and he does so, and lets Michael Schumacher through. Good bit of driving, that. And now Schumacher has got to catch the Jordan in front of him and lap that. It's Damon Hill. And meantime, David Coulthard in the McLaren is continuing to slice his way through the field, metaphorically, not actually, as he comes down to the Rivazza again. Turn 13 out of 17 corners on this track. Round turn 14, now underneath the bridge and into the Variante Bassa, the right-hander, which leads to the Traguardo, down to 55 miles an hour, accelerates through. Now, he was 23 seconds ahead of David Coulthard at the end of the 39th lap, 40th lap, and he's into a new lap now, and I'm watching the computer to see where Michael Schumacher's gap will come out, because we're still waiting for the Ferrari to go through. 23 seconds was the gap, as you look at the mechanics there waiting to refuel their car. And David Coulthard is driving an absolutely superb race. He hasn't put a wheel wrong. He started from pole position, he kept that lead, and he's made his pit stop.
Well, the only thing that, David is supremely fit. That's not an issue. The car appears to be okay, but clearly there still could be drama ahead. Back markers, he's got another pit stop to make, so it's still a long way to go.
Now, the McLaren and the Ferrari, Coulthard and Schumacher, are matching each other's time. 10th of a second to 10th of a second. There was only a 10th of a second in it last time, and the result is that the gap between them is identical, 23 seconds.
Now, Frentzen has to push. Lacey's made his pit stop. Frentzen will be 2 or 3 laps later, I believe. Frentzen has to push, and in fact, as I say that, he does his fastest lap of the race. In fact, the fastest lap last time ran a 30.2. If he wants to re-establish himself in front of a Lacey, a 9.9 second stop, not particularly good for a 2-stop race. Frentzen apparently is coming straight in. I'm a bit surprised they don't leave Frentzen out there doing that kind of pace to get him ahead of a Lacey.
Yes, David Coulthard still the fastest lap of all in this race, 1:29.49, and that is exactly 4 seconds to the nearest 10th slower than last year's lap record put up by Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as the Williams mechanics there standing in the pit lane, and Michael Schumacher goes through. David Hill moves over and lets him through. Damon Hill, who is in 8th position, Michael Schumacher, who is in 2nd position, now 24 seconds behind Coulthard.
Well, Jordan haven't scored a World Championship point yet this year, and Damon back there in 8th place. It's going to be tough for him today again. It's really just not falling for them.
Lap 42, 20 laps to go, race order. Coulthard leads Schumacher by 24 seconds. Schumacher is 30 seconds ahead of Irvine. Villeneuve is 4th, Lacey is 5th. Frentzen is in 6th position, and Frentzen is now in the pits. So Lacey, Panis, Hill is the order behind them.
Well, unless they needed to come in for fuel, I'm surprised they didn't leave Frentzen out for 2 or 3 more laps, because he would be light on fuel, he can lap faster than a Lacey, and I think they would have put him ahead. As it is, it's going to be touch and go. Where is Jean Lacey? Lacey coming down the pit straight now. It's got Frentzen ahead anyway. That 30.2 made all the difference. Williams made a good stop anyway. Remember, a Lacey stop was 9.9, was a bit slow. So Williams have made the right decision. They've got their man back ahead.
Yeah, and in the process, Coulthard has lapped Frentzen, and there is a Lacey closing up on the Williams ahead, but he's got it all to do now, because catching him is one thing, getting past Frentzen is going to be quite another. News from James Allen in the pits.
All kinds of fun and games going on at Ferrari here, Murray, because this time they're all ready, and it's Schumacher's tyres. I can tell that because they're plain black. They haven't got the red tabs on them. Irvine's tyre covers have got red tabs on them. So the tyres are all out, but neither driver's been given the inboard. And McLaren is staring down, trying to work out what's going on. And the real cat and mouse from Ferrari here. Very interesting.
So David Coulthard leading Michael Schumacher on lap 43 by 24 seconds.
Yes, you saw the Jordan mechanics there giving the fuel flap of Damon Hill's car an extra prod just to make sure that doesn't come up, as happened with Ralf Schumacher. So Coulthard merrily on his way. He's just lapped 5th place man. And we're on board now. You're on board. You are leading the San Marino Grand Prix. You're into Rivazza 1. David taking it very, very easy, I have to say. I was watching him earlier through 2, Rivazza 2, and really he was just waiting before he got on the gas. His car is working beautifully.
Well, Eddie Irvine isn't taking it easy. Here he is in 3rd position behind Ralf Schumacher's 9th place Jordan, going through, or trying to go through to lap it. And Irvine has got Jacques Villeneuve behind him, so he will need desperately to get past Ralf Schumacher, because Jacques Villeneuve can see what's happening just as well as you can, and Villeneuve will be cramming on the pace as much as he possibly can to close with Eddie Irvine in 3rd position before the Ferrari. No, he doesn't, because the Ferrari goes past the Jordan. Now Villeneuve's got to do exactly the same thing.
I think Villeneuve passed him easily, because Ralph got well out of shape actually going into that chicane. Had to turn in very early, and Villeneuve sweeping past easily. We saw Eddie Irvine make that mistake into Tamburello running onto the grass. That's obviously given Villeneuve renewed enthusiasm.
Yeah, and rightly so, because look at the way he's eating into the gap between himself and 3rd place Eddie Irvine as they turn into the Traguardo. That's Damon Hill. So now Irvine looking in his mirrors and seeing the Williams Mechachrome big in those mirrors, has got to face catching up to Damon Hill and getting past him. And that's not going to be at all easy, because Damon is going as quickly as he can. He's in 8th position. He wants to catch and get past Panis and get up into 7th place, and hopefully a Lacey and into the points for the first time for a Jordan this year.
Well, McLaren getting ready for a pit stop. There's the McLaren boys. And obviously it'll be David's 2nd and final stop. In fact, he's in the pit lane. Coulthard is in the pit lane. And Ferrari boys have gone back in. Oh, they've got to get David out. He's 23.7 seconds ahead. A good stop will keep him in, give him track position still on Michael Schumacher. He doesn't want to come out on the racetrack behind Schumacher. That'll give Schumacher some kind of leverage, and there's no point in giving that away to him. And I think David is going to stay in the lead. His second stop, his second stop has kept him in the lead, and now hopefully he can make the most of that. Schumacher's got to stop again.
Very close indeed. Michael Schumacher went past me just as David Coulthard was exiting the pit lane. Now, we need to see on our monitors what the positions are, but in the meantime, there are Irvine and Villeneuve, third and fourth.
Well, Schumacher coming in the pits. You see Schuey locking up his wheels, trying to get down to the 80k speed limit. Sorry, that's Irvine. Irvine locking up there, and also the Ferrari of the Williams of Villeneuve is in. This is a race for to get back out, and the Ferrari team have won it. Irvine back out on the track, some kind of problem.
What's happening to Villeneuve?
It looks like they were pushing the fuel flap down or something like that. A slow stop for the Williams. And, well, Jacques got it all to do again.
Yeah, that was very, very bad luck for Jacques Villeneuve, because it was a very close run thing. If they could have been just a bit quicker, he could have got out ahead of Eddie Irvine and got that third position. He didn't. We're on lap 45 now. 62-lap race. Here is Eddie Irvine on those new Goodyears, but it's a Bridgestone-shod car that's leading David Coulthard. Goodyear are second with Schumacher. Goodyear are third with Eddie Irvine. There are the Ferrari mechanics. Goodyear are fourth with Villeneuve, and fifth with Frentzen, and sixth with Alesi. Indeed, the next top Bridgestone runner after David Coulthard, race leader, is Olivier Panis in seventh place.
Well, Coulthard did just stay in front of Schumacher. They're just 1.4 seconds apart. There you see them. There you see them. Schumacher yet to stop again, but that's such good news for David, because at least if Schumacher had track position on him, he could have played around in some way, and we know Schumi's not against that kind of thing. So we're expecting Schumi in at the end of this lap.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, what you're looking at now is a full storm for Michael Schumacher and for Ferrari. There are effectively about 20 seconds between them, because Schumacher, as you rightly said, Martin, still got to come in and make another stop. David Coulthard's made his last stop. He's on lap 46 out of 62, looking very good indeed as he climbs up towards the Varianta Alta, the right, the left chicane at the highest point of the circuit. This is where they start to drop down, and it's Coulthard leading Schumacher. Irvine is still third ahead of Villeneuve. Frentzen is fifth, so both the Williams are in the top five. Jean Alesi is sixth. Olivier Panis is seventh. Alesi has been lapped, and as has everybody after him. Damon Hill is in eighth position, but 25 seconds behind Panis. Ninth is Ralf Schumacher.
There goes Schuey down the pit lane. 80k, he's also locking up his front tyres. It doesn't matter at that point. They're about to take them off. They're trashed. You don't need them anymore. Slowly into the garage and running into the front jackman very, very hard, actually. That'll move him slightly off of his marks. Not a huge problem. The front jackman won't have enjoyed it.
Super stop by Michael Schumacher, 6.8 seconds. Meantime, Eddie Irvine in third place has made the fastest time of the race in the third sector. He's putting on the pace now because he's trying to close up on Michael Schumacher in the second position. So here is Coulthard, and he's on his 47th lap now. And as David Coulthard goes down towards the Ravazza, we're going into a break.
Mal rot, nämlich Villeneuve und Frentzen, und dann Jean Alesi, der ja schon in Argentinien 2 Punkte sich holte für Platz 5 und der wieder mit dem Sauber in den Punkterängen fährt. Dann sehen Sie das weitere Klassement. Ralf Schumacher leider nur noch auf Platz 9, war ja zwischenzeitlich schon mal 7., aber, und das ist positiv, auf jeden Fall noch im Rennen. Und nach der Pechsträhne zu Beginn der Saison ist das ja schon mal ganz wichtig, dass er die Zielflagge sehen wird.
Alle Fahrer nehmen die weißen Abweiser zu Hilfe. Solange man einen schönen Rhythmus hat, macht das nichts. Aber wenn man da einen kleinen Fehler macht und das Auto so ins Schaukeln bringt, dass es zum Springen beginnt, dann hat man sehr wohl ein Problem. Das haben wir in den Trainingssitzungen immer wieder gesehen, dass dann nicht nur die Hinterräder durchgedreht haben, da kann es sogar so weit kommen, dass sich das Auto dreht. Aber David hat hier alles unter Kontrolle.
Jetzt der Rückstand wieder knapp über 20 Sekunden. Die 1,4 vorhin vor dem Boxenstopp waren ein schönes Intermezzo. Jetzt hat die harte Realität die Ferrari-Fans wieder. Und wenn ich aus dem Fenster gucke, da sieht man doch den einen oder anderen gestikulieren und nicht ganz so glücklich ausschauen.
Da kommt noch etwas dazu. Wenn man einen Gegner vor sich sehen kann, dann ist es für einen Fahrer immer einfacher und angenehmer, auf den aufzuholen. Da kann man sich richtig in den Gegner verbeißen. Ansonsten fährt man ja, wie hier Michael, nur gegen die Uhr.
In der letzten Runde, der eindeutig schnellste Mann, war Jacques Villeneuve mit einer persönlichen Bestzeit, einer 1:30,103. Zum Vergleich dazu, Coulthard nur 1:31,220. Heinz-Harald Frentzen 1:32,012. Also 2 Sekunden in der letzten Runde langsamer als Jacques Villeneuve. Der da doch sich wieder anschickt, so ein bisschen die Verhältnisse gerade zu rücken. Es gab ja gerade unter den deutschen Journalisten einige...
Lap 49, getting towards the closing stages of the 62-lap San Marino Grand Prix as you look at Michael Schumacher, who got within 1.5 seconds of David Coulthard after David made his stop, but now the gap is 18 seconds. And Michael Schumacher is travelling. He's the fastest man on the track. He's just gone round in 1 minute 23.9.3.
If I had a radio link to David Coulthard, I'd be saying you're backing off a bit too much, David. You're taking it a bit too easy. The gap's down to 18 seconds, 15 laps to go. 14 laps to go, I should say. And really, David, you've got to just pick that pace up a little bit. Michael's going to come at you. He's going to try and put some pressure on you. He can't beat you in a straight fight. Your car's too fast, but don't let him put pressure on you and then make a mistake on a curb or with a back marker. David, get back on it a little bit.
Yeah, this is exactly what happened last year, except that then the leader was Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Michael Schumacher was in second place, and he forced, and finished 1.3 seconds behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who incidentally now is in 5th position. And look at the way Schumacher is going.
Well, also, of course, that'll make David have to step back on the brakes. There's Ron Dennis going back in. I don't know, he'll be probably looking at the computers at the back of the pits to understand if there's any kind of complications with the McLaren, because David now won 30.6. Schumi's going to have another second out of you this lap, maybe even more. I think he could even have a 1.5 seconds out of the lead this lap. David, you've got to get back on it.
The gap has gone down from 20 to 18 seconds and now to 17 seconds. Schumacher is catching David Coulthard at the moment at the rate of 1 second a lap, and there are still 13 laps to go. It's going to be very tight if they stay the way they are. If David Coulthard doesn't react to the challenge. Race order: Coulthard, Schumacher, Irvine in the Ferrari is still third. Great race for Ferrari so far. Villeneuve is fourth and Frentzen is fifth. Better for the Williams than it has been this year. Alesi is sixth, Panis is seventh, Hill is ninth, Hill is eighth, Schumacher, Ralph is ninth, Tuero is 10th, Salo in the Arrows is 11th. The last runner is Ricardo Rossit in the Tyrrell as you watch David Coulthard going through the left-hander, and the drivers who are out of this race are Takagi, Tyrrell, Trulli, Prost, Nakano in the Prost, in the Minardi, Diniz in the Arrows, Hakkinen in the McLaren, Fisichella in the Jordan, Wurz in Fisichella in the Benetton, Wurz in the Benetton, Herbert in the Sauber, Magnussen and Barrichello Stewart.
Schumacher already a second up on this current lap, and on an absolute charge. You cannot give that guy a sniff of a race win because he'll take it. There's Schumi coming out of Rivazza. David's in the pit straight. The difference was 17.2 seconds. This time it's going to be late 15s or early 16-second advantage. And now, David, you have to go.
So 17 seconds was the gap, and now it's 16 lap. Now this is the 4th lap in succession that Michael Schumacher has taken a second out of David Coulthard's lead. 16 seconds, 12 laps to go. Schumacher's got to go faster yet. David Coulthard can hold him off if they keep going. There's Ron Dennis and Pat Fry, who is one of the McLaren race engineers on the left.
He's David Coulthard's race engineer, and I bet they've been on the radio to him. At the moment, David is a 10th up on this lap. David a 1/10 of a second up. He's got a back marker in front of him. He should be able to sail past him very easily. Yes, he does. Moves out of the way. And let's see the midsection slow. He obviously lost some time behind that car. And you can see David attacking the curbs a little bit harder now.
And now Michael Schumacher has taken the fastest lap trophy, as it were, off David Coulthard that we're looking at. 1 minute 29.3.
Right, and Coulthard lost 8/10 to Schumacher in the midsection. So Schumi another 8/10 up.
Well, this is great stuff. Either David Coulthard is very, very relaxed and pacing himself, or Michael Schumacher is almost too good for him. But 16 seconds was the gap. There is Ron Dennis. There on the left is Ross Brawn. Next to him is Jean Todt, who is the Ferrari boss. And over the line goes Schumacher, and the gap comes down to under 15 seconds. It's gone from 20 to 19 to 18 to 17 to 16 to 15. And that is the gap at the present moment. It's an all-out race with 11 laps to go at Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix between David Coulthard, who has yet to win this year. We're going to a break, but we'll be back soon. And the gap at the present moment is 15 seconds. What will it be when you rejoin us?
Oder das, was von dessen Stimme noch übergeblieben ist, denn der kollabiert hier fast, der brüllt in sein Mikrofon und sie kriegen irgendwie mit, wieder ein bisschen näher rangekommen. Dann geht hier wieder Jubel durch die Tribüne oder über die Tribüne. Da stehen sie auf, ballen die Fäuste und haben die Hoffnung auf das rote Wunder noch nicht ganz aufgegeben. Und da steht Ricardo Rosset draußen im Tyrrell. Pech für den jungen Brasilianer. Platz 12 wäre ein achtbares Ergebnis für ihn gewesen. David Coulthard ist über die Linie und wir warten auf Michael Schumacher. 14,9. Er hat in dieser Runde keine Zeit gut gemacht und wir haben noch 10 Runden. 10 Runden müssen die Hauptdarsteller noch kämpfen und müssen die unmittelbar Beteiligten an den Kommandostellen, wir haben gerade Mercedes und Ferrari gesehen, Daumen drücken bzw. hoffen. Da ist Ron Dennis. 7 Williams-Siege gibt es, 5 McLaren-Siege in der Statistik von Imola. Und in der letzten Runde waren die beiden Rivalen bis auf eine Tausendstel Sekunde beinahe zeitgleich. Michael Schumacher eine Tausendstel Sekunde schneller als David Coulthard im letzten Durchgang. Da haben Sie es gerade nochmal eingeblendet.
Ein ganz eigenartiges Problem, was in solchen Fällen für einen Fahrer auftritt, ist, ich nehme mal an, dass Coulthard keine Probleme hat. Aber er wird gesagt bekommen, fahr bitte nur so schnell, wie es irgendwie nötig ist. Und das ist was ganz, ganz Furchtbares. Es ist für einen Rennfahrer kein Problem, am Limit zu fahren, bis zur letzten Sekunde Gas zu geben und richtig das Letzte aus dem Auto rauszuholen. Es ist aber unheimlich schwierig, so ein ganz klein bisschen langsamer zu fahren. Dadurch passieren...
Coverage of the San Marino Grand Prix from now on. We are on lap 54 and what a race it is. Ricardo Rosset has retired. There are 11 out of the 22 starters still running. David Coulthard is 15 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher, who is catching him at the rate of a second a lap. Ron Dennis.
We keep seeing Ron going in and out of the garage. He is looking at the data acquisition behind the screens. There's a bank of computers and men, and clearly something is bothering McLaren about Coulthard's car. But the good news for the British supporters is that David was 3/10 faster. He has the pace. There's no doubt about it. He has the faster car. There's clearly just something they're slightly worried about. James, do you know anything about it?
Tim, we down here, the sort of collected brains down here seem to think it's the brakes. He sort of backs off and then he pushes a little bit harder. As you say, he recoups a little bit. Adrian Newey has been studying the telemetry for some time. Ron Dennis has been to and fro a few times. Interestingly, though, McLaren are the only team in Formula One who won't allow me into their garage or any of the other pit reporters from the other TV stations. I don't know why. They obviously think they're something special, but Williams and Ferrari are quite happy for me to wander in. But anyway, They're obviously looking at the telemetry, and I think it may well be the brakes, Martin, but it doesn't seem to be a crisis. There is a calmness in the garage.
And I don't know what they would see from the telemetry. If the brake pedal's soft, I don't think it would show up on the telemetry. It's really temperatures and pressures more from the engine gearbox and that sort of thing. There are line pressure sensors in both front and rear brakes, but I don't think it would tell them whether or not David has got a soft brake pedal, the pedal plunging towards the bulkhead as he hits it, unless it can tell them brake wear.
Well, let's take a deep breath and be calm. There are 8 laps left, and David Coulthard is holding the gap. It was 15.1 seconds to Michael Schumacher in second place on the 53rd lap. It was 15.1 seconds on the 54th lap. So, as you can see from that graphic, they are matching each other to within a tenth or so.
Well, Shuey's lost the edge of his fresh tyres now. He's obviously banzaiing those new tyres that they put on at the pit stop, getting himself well down into the 29s, while David was protecting something back in the 31s. But Shuey can no longer repeat those very, very fast times, and David has just edged forward.
Lap 55, what's going on behind them as you watch race leader David Coulthard? Eddie Irvine is still third in the Ferrari, and remember he was third in the Argentine Grand Prix. Excellent race for him and for Ferrari if he can keep going. Villeneuve and Frentzen are still 4th and 5th, looking like getting both Williams home in this race in the points. Jean Alesi is in 6th, having lost that 5th position after the pit stop to Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Well, Schumacher's half a second up on David on this lap. David comes over the line in a 30.3. Schumy's going to be coming round some 15 seconds later, and I think he's going to be in the 29s. But David can cope with that kind of gap. It's not going to have Schumacher breathing all over him in the last few corners. We're watching Eddie Irvine through the Acqua Minerale, some 57 seconds off the leader and some 42 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. And this is what a lot of people are saying. Without Schumacher, how fast is this car really?
As fast as Eddie Irvine can drive it seems to be the answer. And he is in 3rd position, ahead of both the Williams, ahead of the Sauber of Alesi. 7th is Olivier Panis, who has been lapped. Alesi has not been lapped, in 6th position, incidentally. Damon Hill is still in that 8th position. Looks as though Jordan are again going to finish 7th, 8th and not get a World Championship point, because Ralf Schumacher is in 9th position, ahead of Esteban Tuero, the Argentine driver in the Minardi. Still running, and this is excellent news for the Arrows team, is Mika Salo in 11th place, the last runner, and he's 2 laps down, but he is still going. And Salo has yet to finish a race this year, as has his teammate Deniz, who has already long ago retired. So this looks as though it could be the first Arrows finish for 1998, and that's real encouragement.
Well, Michael brought the gap down to 14.3 seconds. Remember, he's got some 40-odd races more experience than David, but David knows from Melbourne 97, when he had Schumacher pushing him the whole way and he won the race, that he can cope with pressure from Michael Schumacher, and he seems to just about be pegging the gap. You only need to win by a few yards. You don't have to win by a minute. You get the same number of points.
If they finish where they are now, Häkkinen will be leading the World Championship on 26 points. Coulthard would be second on 23 points. Michael Schumacher would be third on 20 points. A real closing up of the Drivers' Championship, and that's something we didn't expect after Australia, when the McLarens were so dominant, after Brazil, where the McLarens were so dominant, and even after Argentina, where David Coulthard got pushed out of the lead. There goes Ron again. What's he checking?
Well, he's looking at you see the grey screens there behind. There is a bank of computers, as I've said, and a lot of men beavering away, watching every single day. As the car comes past the pits, there's a data burst, and it unloads the previous lap. Every tweak of the throttle, every movement of the steering wheel or gear shift lever is all on the computer screen for them to see.
And in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren are on 10 points, Ferrari are on 10 points, and Williams are on 5 points at the present moment.
Okay, David's a second down on this lap. He's a second slower already on this, the 58th lap.
Which means to say that Schumacher will probably be about 12. We'll know in a second, because you can see Michael Schumacher approaching the finish line. The gap has come down from 13.3 to 12.3. But now we've only got 5 laps to go, and unless David Coulthard's problem gets greater, there he is. He's in with a very good shout for his first win for McLaren in this 1998 year.
Bit of traffic ahead. John Alesi, he should be cooperative. He's got a lot of experience, John. He should know the deal. He's used to leading Grand Prix in Ferraris, and he knows how important it is when you're coming around to lap people. So hopefully he'll let DC through without too much difficulty, and for that matter, Michael Schumacher. We want to have a good race right up until the checkered flag.
Well, there's Alesi. Here is Coulthard. Alesi is 6th, about to be lapped, but he's 21 seconds ahead of Olivier Panis, who is in 7th place, so he can well afford to move over and let David Coulthard through. I don't know if he's got any real affiliation and emotion left for Ferrari, for whom he drove for 5 years, but we're going to see shortly.
Well, another second up on this lap, Michael Schumacher to David Coulthard. Meanwhile, Jacques Villeneuve's having a good charge. He's closed Eddie Irvine down to just 3 seconds. Irvine making his way there past the Jordan, and you'll see Villeneuve in the background. That's Panis. He's got some kind of engine failure, I suspect.
Oh,
or,
yeah, tough.
Yeah, that's an engine failure. So pull it off the track, please,
yeah.
Ollie. Don't trial oil all the way back.
We think Damon Hill's got a problem as well, so that's Olivier Panis retiring from 7th place. Up to 7th place goes Damon Hill, but is he going to finish the race? There's Alain Prost, and Trulli was out of the race a long time ago in the other Prost. Now here's Coulthard. Alesi lets him through. Well done, Jean. Now it's Ralf Schumacher next. Now, I don't suppose Ralf Schumacher will know where his brother is and what the relationship is between Coulthard, that you are watching on his 59th lap out of 62, and Ralph's brother Michael. Well, he's far enough back for us not to see him in that shot, Michael Schumacher.
Well, if Coulthard's carrying a problem, he's carrying it very well. He's keeping his head very calm, because Michael is relentlessly closing him down, but David is keeping it steady through the back markers, not getting ragged, not getting all over the curbs and the grass. I think he realises that there's not enough time left for Michael, but those back markers will be bothering. When there's Hill coming in the pits, clearly some kind of mechanical problem from Damon, dropping out of 7th place.
Yeah, and he's only had 2 8th places so far this year. Into the garage, out of the race, lap 59, race order. Coulthard leads Schumacher by 11 seconds. Irvine is 3rd in a strong position, but Villeneuve is 2 seconds behind him and really flying. There is Jacques Villeneuve, 4th position. 5th is Heinz Harald Frentzen, 20 seconds behind his teammate. 6th is Jean Alesi, who's been lapped.
Important moment there for David. He got well past the Jordan of Ralf Schumacher, took a pretty bold move up the inside into the Tamburello chicane, and I think that'll be very, very critical for him now to have a clear run and pace himself and cope with whatever problems he's got.
So the gap is down to 9 seconds now. There's this lap and 2 more to go.
Yeah, but Schumi's got to pass those 2 cars as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem. Even if he gets past them cleanly, he's very likely to lose a little time. Certainly not to gain on David. Here is Michael Schumacher, charging in 1998 as he charged in 1997. This time behind a McLaren. Last year it was a Williams. And it looks as though McLaren are good for 10 points, as is Coulthard. It looks as though Ferrari are good for 10 points. 2nd for Schumacher. Here he is.
That's Schumacher going into the chicane. We've just seen Coulthard coming out of. He's currently 2 seconds up on this lap, and that's Coulthard going very slowly. Coming out of Rivazza 1, going very, very slowly. Coulthard, he's getting some...
There's Schumacher in the shot. Now, this is the first time we've seen both of them in the same shot. This could be an absolutely sensational finish to the San Marino Grand. Look! There is Coulthard. He's in his 61st lap now. There's only this lap and the next lap to go. The crowd are going mad, and with justification. Schumacher is eating up the gap. He finished 1.3 seconds behind Frentzen last year, and look at him go.
Well, what could David's problem be? He was so slow into Rivazza 1 there. I wonder, and that's the biggest braking area on the circuit. I wonder if he's got some kind of braking problem. But anyway, he still should just have enough. If he doesn't catch back markers, Schumi's got to negotiate his way through. past Ralph Schumacher, his brother, of course. He'll let him through easily. And then past Jean Alesi. It's a good job this race is not much longer for David Coulthard.
I hope he'll let him through. He drove into him in one race last year and took him out of it altogether. But he must see a Ferrari coming up in his mirrors. Move over, Ralph, and let your brother through. This is a great, great race. And here is David Coulthard on lap 61 out of 62 with the lead diminishing every foot of the way. There is Ralph Schumacher into the bend first. His brother behind him. He's got to move over now and let him through. There is David Coulthard. Irvine is still
Coulthard
third.
is so slow into Rivazza. I wonder if his brake pedal's on the deck. He's so slow. If Schumacher gets a look at him into there, he'll be straight past him.
Yeah, he's much closer on this lap. Remember, Coulthard was coming well out of the Rivazza 2 when Schumacher was dropping down to Rivazza 1 on the previous lap. The gap was 6.3 seconds. Coulthard's on his last lap, and the gap now is 5 seconds. I don't think Schumacher can do it, but I could be wrong.
Well, Schumi had to pass his brother. He lost one. He found 1.2 seconds on David on that lap. I just hope David's brakes are going to stay. I'm pretty certain now he's got very, very little brake pedal in that car.
And it's going to be the Rivazza that decides it, because that's where David Coulthard is notably slow. And they're coming out of the Tosa bend now. Into it goes Michael Schumacher. There is Coulthard, there is Schumacher. Coulthard climbing up towards the Piratella and out of it. There, my God, this is going to be an absolutely barnstorming finish. Coulthard down into the Acqua Minerale bends, climbing up to the very end to Alta. And if Schumacher gets up behind him at the Rivazza, we could see a Ferrari win, and the crowd here will go absolutely berserk if that happens.
Okay, David, keep your head. He's not going to get at you. You can do it. Just take it so steady on the last part of the lap. This is the big stop. Now, will the car slow down? Yes, it is slowing down. Easy on the throttle. He's stroking it now. He can see now the end of the lap. He can see that funny cloth with the black and white squares coming up any time soon.
It's going to be as close this year as it was last year, with Michael Schumacher finishing second again. But David Coulthard brilliantly wins the San Marino Grand Prix, and Michael Schumacher finishes second, 4.5 seconds behind him. What a wonderful finish to the first race in Europe for 1998. And David Coulthard deservedly gets 10 World Championship points. That's the man who took him out at the previous race in the Argentine, Michael Schumacher, and he finishes second, a worthy second, to a very, very worthy winner.
Well, the first win of the year for David. Coulthard, McLaren, Mercedes-Benz, they really were the class of the field. They deserved the 10 points. I can't wait to hear what the problem was at the end. And then Michael Schumacher, as ever, driving a brilliant, brilliant race. Eddie Irvine coming home for the final podium position. 2 Ferrari drivers on the podium, and the crowd are standing up in front of us, waving their red flags, clapping. They're so happy. But Coulthard was the man on the day.
Yeah, but hats off to Eddie Irvine too. A super race from Michael Schumacher, but Eddie Irvine has shown that Ferrari are almost back in the picture. Williams have still got a lot to do, but at least they've got both their cars home, because there is Heinz-Harald Frentzen finishing in 5th position. His teammate finished in 4th place. In 6th position will be Jean Alesi. No, he is, because he's already been lapped. Jean Todt looking as impassive as ever, notwithstanding the fact that his cars have finished 2nd and 3rd. And now we're on the wind-down lap, riding with race winner David Coulthard from Twynham in Scotland, his 62nd Grand Prix, and he's won it. That's 4 Grand Prix wins for him with Williams and with McLaren. And now look how close the Drivers' Championship is. Häkkinen 3 points ahead of Coulthard, is still in the lead. Coulthard is second in the Drivers' Championship, only 3 points ahead of Michael Schumacher. 6 points separate Häkkinen and Schumacher, first and third. Eddie Irvine is still in 4th position after his 3rd place in the race here. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in 5th place. Alexander Wurz is 6th, and world champion Jacques Villeneuve has still to break in 1998 into the top 6 of the World Championship. Now in the Constructors' Championship, those 10 points that David Coulthard got for McLaren have lifted the team to 49 points. Ferrari are on 31 points, and Williams, who had 8 points when this race began, as a result of Villeneuve and Frentzen, have got a few more extra points as Eddie Irvine draws up alongside Michael Schumacher, second and third in their Ferraris. Well, it's all about red caps and scarlet flags here at Imola, and the fans, the Italian fans, can go home feeling very pleased indeed, because although David Coulthard won a superb race for McLaren, and let's not forget the Mercedes-Benz engine and the Bridgestone tyres, because the Bridgestone score now is 3 wins to Goodyear's 1, and of course Mercedes have won 3 races to Ferrari's 1.
Well done to the Ilmore engine builders in Northampton in England. They build the engine in the back of that McLaren.
And in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren are now 18 points ahead of Ferrari, which is certainly not the runaway situation that we were expecting after the Brazilian Grand Prix, where Häkkinen and Coulthard finished first and second. Williams, as a result of that 4th and 5th position from Villeneuve-Frentzen, are on 13 points. That's more than 3 times less than McLaren. Benetton are in 4th position as Sauber is in 5th place. And you look at the Parc Fermé, wonderful sight that, the 2 scarlet Ferraris, the silver McLaren, the 2 red and white Williams, and the other finishers behind them, Jean Alesi in 6th position in the Sauber. Ralf Schumacher finishes just 1 position outside Jordan's first point, so they still haven't got one this year. Tuero finishes 8th for Minardi. That's his highest finish, and he'll be very happy with that. Bicasalo does finish the race, and that's the first finish for the Arrows team with their Arrows engine. And as I said earlier on, that will be very real encouragement for them. Replay of David Coulthard jinking his way across the line as Michael Schumacher enters the corner to finish second, having just lapped the Sauber of Jean Alesi. I could do with a few more like that.
Well, it was exciting, wasn't it? And as ever, Schumi keeping the pressure on. And thank goodness that he does, and a good run to the end. We didn't see too much of Villeneuve putting pressure on Irvine, but Irvine withstood that for the final podium position.
And the encouraging thing is that Ferrari have still got some car improvements in the pipeline. They've got their new exhaust system, which exhausts out of the top of the engine cover and not under the diffuser, and that's going to help them. The next Grand Prix is the Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. It's a different sort of circuit to Imola, but the teams now have got the advantage of being in Europe, where we're on the ride-down lap replay with David Coulthard now as he comes out of the Tosa and climbs the hill. But as I was saying, oh, here we are. Ron Dennis embraces, and rightly so, David Coulthard for winning the 3rd race out of 4 for McLaren Mercedes Bridgestone this year. David shows some exultation on the top step of the podium next to Schumacher 2nd and Irvine 3rd. And it'll be the national anthem for David Coulthard and for the victorious McLaren team. Well, great race here at Imola. Joyce Coulthard will be a very, very happy mum and dad, and rightly so, because their boy David has really got the job done here at Imola, and Formula One is well on its way now to being at minimum a 3-constructor battle, and hopefully before very much longer, when the others have got their acts together, at least a 5-car championship. McLaren benefited from being on the pace right from the beginning of the season with a superb package of an excellent chassis, a magnificent Mercedes-Benz Ilmore designed and built engine and the Bridgestone tyres, but the others are making up ground. Ferrari in particular. We know that Williams have got improvements in the pipeline which are going to help them in Barcelona, in Spain, and even more so at Monaco, and Williams don't take things lying down. They're one of the most successful teams in the history of Grand Prix racing, with great names like Ferrari and from the past Bugatti and Mercedes-Benz, and they will be up there before very much longer. Patrick Head, the technical chief of Williams, and his men are bending their every effort to making the cars go quicker and better. They know what to do and they will do it, and Williams will be back. But McLaren and Ferrari are still very much on top.